How many moves ahead do Grandmasters calculate? Surprisingly, just a few, and today I'll show you 5 specific tips so that you can find tactical shots and calculate variations very easily in your own games, even in Blitz. In the first position, it is white to move, and you may try to solve it by yourself. Pause the video if you need to, and then think about this, and if you can, write your solution down in comments below. And after that, we will discuss it together. So, how do I think about positions like that? First off, look for forcing moves on the opponent's side of the board. Now, that is a super helpful tip, because instead of trying to consider like literally every potential move in a position, you narrow it down to just a few. You look at opponent's side of the board because those moves are the most dangerous. They have potential to actually destroy your opponent's position, and therefore you look for those shots first of all. And only if there's absolutely nothing there, only then you'll have to settle for a second best option, just regrouping your pieces within your own half of the board, all right? But first off, we focus on his side of the board. Then you ask yourself about forcing moves, which are checks, captures, and attacking moves. You ask yourself, what are checks, captures, attacking moves that I can play on opponent's side of the board? And you quickly consider those moves. So what are they? Like, can we deliver any check here? Like, I can potentially capture this pawn. And you may think through these moves for just a little bit, just to evaluate whether the move makes any sense or not. In this case, does this move make any sense? Well, black can recapture with a counter check, so that is clearly bad for white. Alright, let's move on to the next alternative. How about queen takes the knight? Well, normally, in order for you to win material, you need to have more attackers than defenders. In this case, your opponent has 2 defenders, you've got 2 attackers. Therefore, you do not outnumber your opponent, and normally such exchanges are not favorable for you. So if we go ahead and give it a try, at the end, indeed, we're down the exchange, and it's an endgame, and an endgame is hard to checkmate your opponent, so this is also not a good option. Are there any other checks? There is also the move bishop g8, and I would say that for a second you need to think about every potential forced move that you got, because sometimes they do work out. But in this case, bishop g8, I would not even bother calculating, just because in general the move doesn't seem to make sense to me. You're giving up one of your powerful attacking pieces and you're not achieving anything. You're not destroying his position, like there's not much change in the position after that. Therefore, I would just rule it out. We're not computers, we're not supposed to calculate everything, and if the moves seem bad to you, you may just exclude it. You can be actually kind of like Magnus Carlsen. There's an interesting thing about him. Even though he's such a great player, he's not the best at tactics and calculation. Just before recording this video, I searched on YouTube videos where top grandmasters are often offered puzzles to solve, and the very first video that YouTube showed me actually was pretty surprising because Carlsen had the worst result there compared to other grandmasters. And yet, in real life games, he owns them. How come? While those strong grandmasters are busy calculating a ton of variations and, getting tired and spending time, Carlsen trusts his intuition. And he does that. He rules out those moves which just don't seem to be nice for him. All right. So bishop g8, I would exclude. What else do we have here? There is a final check, which is queen to g6. Now, obviously, the problem is he's going to capture that. Does it make any sense or not? Well, after that, you have some follow-up, right? And typically, you need to calculate till the end of the forcing line, till the position where you have no other forcing moves at the end. So I would still look at this option. Now, this one, queen to g6, check. And after black captures, you can recapture either with a rook or a pawn. Which one would you pick here to calculate? Well, to me, again, I would start from the most forcing move, which is a check. The problem with the rook capture is that, yes, it actually creates a checkmate in threat. Rook takes h6 because this square is taken away. But the problem is now it is black to play. And now black can do something, right? It can push the pawn forward, maybe move the knight somewhere, and it's making it harder for you to calculate and to think about it. While if you capture with a check, there's only one move that your opponent can play, move his king away. That's the beauty of forcing moves. They make your life easier. Your bishop takes away this square, therefore the king has to go back, and now rook takes h6, wins the game, and that is the solution. In the next position, it is also white to move. You may give it a try, and as always, if you can solve it, write it down in comments below. And anyways, I'll be curious to know what variations you calculated here. I actually love this position a lot because it illustrates several very useful tips to calculate variations efficiently. Now, I'll keep talking for a few more seconds to give you some more time, and then we'll discuss that together. So here, what do we see? Now, first off, white pawns are moving up, black pawns are moving down, so that is the direction. And we can see that both sides have those advanced pawns. This pawn is very close to being promoted, so is white's pawn. Also, the king is a little bit exposed, even though there is no easy way to attack it right away. Now, what would you play here? Very often, people think like this. I can go here, and from there, I'm going to threaten some checks around here. And if, let's say, I go here and black tries to queen, then I can attack here. And for example, oh, queen f8 actually is a beautiful checkmate. Great, I did it. And then you do play that move queen to f6, hoping for him to queen, but instead your opponent simply captures this pawn and it's game over for you. Now your attack is over while black's passed pawn is going to win the game. So the point here is that you should calculate variations for both sides. Avoid that hope chess when you just saw an idea, you're winning there, you like it, and you're just hoping for that variation. You know, we have to be more objective and we have to give equal say to our opponent as well. Plus, the problem with queen f6 is that we forgot the first rule. Look at your opponent's side of the board and think about forcing moves. Checks, captures, attack, and move. Queen f6 was not the most forcing move. It's not a check, it's not a capture, right? So black had time to do something that they wanted to play. Now let's come back and try to use our proper way of thinking. Check, capture, attack, and move on opponent's side of the board. What are the checks that we can possibly play here? Well, the one move that I can see here is rook to f8. And that is, by the way, another thing which undercuts people, I would say, because it's a little bit unnatural way of thinking of those really forward moves. And I would really encourage you, while thinking about moves, look for the most forward available move possible, because again, that is how you go deep into your opponent's territory and cause maximum damage. That's not how we think in an opening stage. In an opening stage, you just look at your side of the board and you're thinking which pawn or piece should make a move and where should you move it, right? So you're focusing on your side of the board, on your pieces. But when you transition to the middle game, your way of thinking should change. You see that we've flipped that around. Now you, instead of looking at your side of the board, you look at your opponent's side of the board and you ask yourself, how can I go there? How can I make the most forward move so that I can cause the most damage? And you start from those moves, and only if they don't work, only then you settle for second best options, just regrouping your pieces. All right. Therefore, that's how you can find those moves such as rook to f8. Now, rook f8, let's think about this. This is a check to the king, black will capture it, and after the trade, black recaptures, and we achieve nothing. Once again, we'll probably lose the game because this pawn will promote. Are there any other checks? It would be nice for us to move the queen somewhere here or here, but we can't because his queen controls these squares. All right, we've got this check, but it doesn't seem to make much sense. Black will simply capture it, and that is it. We've got this check. Again, for a second, we think about every forcing move, even if it doesn't, look meaningless at first. So let's say you go there, your opponent will capture, of course. Yeah, but then you've got to follow up with the rook to f8. All right, so that's something worth calculating. We go there, king takes, rook f8 check. We calculate till the end of the forcing line, right? And now, good news is that in most cases, you only calculate 2 or 3 moves ahead. And that is enough in 90% of situations in chess. Now, rook f8 check, and if he captures, then it's great. Once again, we finish it off. Queen f8 is a beautiful checkmate. Now, the problem is, once again, we should think for our opponent just as well. Instead of taking it, he can just move the king away, and then it's game over for us. Once again, there's nothing we can do. We can trade rooks, but then it's still game over. While the previous idea was pretty interesting, after queen of h8 in one line, we could finish the game off, but our opponent had a defense, and now we're kind of stuck. What do we do here? When your combinations does not work, you may try to reorder moves, and sometimes it gives you a fresh idea, fresh take for the same position. And here, instead of going there straight away, how about we play rook to f8 first, right? But after he captures, instead of recapturing, we can come back to that previous idea. We can now sacrifice the queen. This time the king cannot escape because we'll be able to grab his rook and promote. But if the king captures here, we'll be able to come back to our first line and win the game. Here's the next position. It is quite advanced. I would say it is white to play as well, but I believe in you. I think that you can solve it if you actually recall what we talked about before and you try to implement it into this position. Now let's think about that together. We are going to look for forcing moves on opponent's side of the board, right? There are checks, captures, attack, and moves. How about checks? We've got some, like knight to c7. Is that a good move to consider? No, I don't like it because black can just take it one way or the other, and that is it. It doesn't help us at all. We're only losing the knight. By the way, the knight can capture this appetizer, and why not? If you can't find anything better, you can settle for that. Something is better than nothing. All right, also we've got some checks with our queen, and the queen is also supported by the bishop, so we could try to go there, but queen e7, if we go there, he can recapture one way or the other, and even if we get the queen back, still we lost our queen along the way. That doesn't seem to make sense. Queen f8, I mean, normally, if there is no rook, that would be a checkmate. That would be nice. But in this case, of course, that is a sudden downside that that rook exists. It can capture it. But actually, there is one more check to follow up. So I would still calculate it through to see if there's any follow-up or not. By the way, let me come back and tell you one thing. Because here you do know that there is a combination, right? You're looking for it. And the same thing goes for you solving tactical puzzles. But when you play a real chess game, you don't know if there is a combination or not. So how do you think during a real chess game? You look for those forcing moves on the opponent's side of the board. If you can find something, you play it. If there is nothing that you can find, then you settle for second best options, less aggressive alternatives, such as that knight takes a7, just grabbing a pawn. Or you can think of some other second best ideas. Maybe you want to play knight d4 and kick this rook out of your territory so that it does not irritate you. Or maybe you want to bring your rooks into play. Again, it will be less aggressive, but still it will improve your position. So that is how you think in general, not just solve tactical puzzles, but that is how you think to find great chess moves in any position. Now let's return back to our calculations of checks. We thought about queen e7, didn't really work. We thought about queen f8. Here there is this follow-up check, therefore we need to consider calculating for a few more moves. The king has only one square to go to. Okay, now we got this bishop, therefore we can deliver some discovered check. What are we going to do about that? Again, I would look for most forward and most forcing moves. Because if you retreat the knight back, like in principle, you don't want to retreat your pieces back from the attack, right? Plus, in here, black would be able to cover, to go back. It makes it harder for us to calculate. In contrast to this, I can see that we can go here with a double attack, right? Or maybe here with a double attack. Because in both cases, if the knight comes here or here, that would be a double check from a knight and bishop. Whereas if we come forward, that is a check, that is a check. Therefore, black has nothing else to do but to move the king, which is nice because for you it makes it very easy to calculate. King comes back, what do you do here? You can retreat the knight back and you're just horsing around, having fun. Your opponent is sweating, he feels that something negative is going to happen. And it's true because in this case, if you try it out that way and the king comes back, this time instead of the repetition, you've got a much nicer try, which is a checkmate. Today we talked about calculation, but if you want to have the all-round system that will take your chess to the next level, I've put together a dedicated bundle. You can find it by clicking the link below the video in the description. And it helps students become state champions, world amateur champions, title players, gain hundreds of rating points. Whatever your chess goal is, we have you covered. So if you're interested, you can click the link below the video. And also let me know if you want a continuation about the calculation subject, and I'll talk to you in my next videos.